Hello, everyone. I'm Jamie Riccio, Member Development Manager at the American Public Gardens Association, and I will be your staff representative during this virtual conference session. Before we begin, here are a couple of tips to get the most out of your virtual conference experience. First, if you are experiencing poor video or audio quality, we suggest closing other programs on your computer, especially other browser tabs. Your inbox will still be there at the end of the session, I promise. If you have any other problems or questions, association staff are available to help. Give us a call at 610-708-3010 or send us an email at info@publicgardens.org. Second, while this session has been pre-recorded, the presenters are here with us today as panelists and will be happy to take questions in the live question and answer portions of the session. At some point during this session, the presenters may activate a poll. Poll responses are anonymous, so be sure to let us know how you really feel. Finally, you can submit your questions using Zoom's Q&A function that you will find in your Zoom toolbar. Questions can be submitted anonymously. You can also upvote other questions to indicate you would like to hear them answered. We will try to answer as many questions as we can during the live Q&A portion of this session. Some questions may be answered directly through the Q&A feature. Thank you and enjoy today's session.
Hello and welcome. My name is Justin Henderson and I'm the Garden Director at Palswood Garden. And I want to introduce you to our topic. Today we're going to be talking about growing influence through Instagram. In a changing world, gardens must craft innovative strategies for sharing our message. One powerful tool that can easily grow a garden's influence is Instagram. With over 1 billion monthly active users, it is a top platform for brands, influencers, cultural attractions, and the public. For gardens, Instagram is a powerful social media tool that has the potential to reach a new demographic. 65% of IG users are under 35, to attract visitors, highlight horticultural displays, educate, promote events, connect communities, raise awareness, and inspire a love for gardens and plants. Public gardens are uniquely positioned to share content that is both beautiful and scientific. Digital images are an asset to our gardens, and social media is a platform that can showcase the scope and range of work that gardens are responsible for. Through Instagram, each garden, no matter the size, has the potential to exponentially increase the magnitude of its reach. This can have a widespread global effect on shaping the perspective on how humans interact with nature. So today, we're going to be hearing from 4 unique gardens and their approaches that they've used on Instagram and the valuable lessons that they've learned along the way. So presenting today, we'll have Andy Pettis from the Trust for Governor's Island. We'll have Brendan Lang from San Francisco Botanical Garden, Erin McKeon from Chanticleer Garden, and myself from Palswood Garden. Really quick, wanted to share some fun facts that we found about APGA membership. So it turns out we already have a significant influence on Instagram. So looked at all the member accounts for APGA and tried to look up their Instagram accounts. What I found was that there are 387 active accounts. So that has a total following of 5,250,696,000 followers. So very significant number. Not all of those are unique followers. I believe probably some of those people follow multiple gardens, but still very significant. The average number of followers per account in the APGA membership is 13,567. And it looks like we're posting a lot. Like we're really working at Instagram already. So we want to make sure that we're getting the most bang for our buck. The total posts is 291,126 for an average number of 752 posts per member. So if you'd like to find some more information about all the different public gardens and their Instagram accounts, I created an Instagram account called Public Garden Find. And right now it's not actually really being followed by anybody. It's not really posting anything, but the follower list on there lists all the APGA members that have active gardens. So you can go to that Public Garden Find and you can look that up and go to that following list and follow, support those gardens and get an idea of what a lot of them are doing. Okay, I wanted to introduce you to one of the APGA members. They're doing an outstanding job on Instagram. It's Chanticleer Garden. And today we have Erin McKeon. She's the Public Programs Manager, and she's going to be giving us some more information on what they're doing. You can follow them on that tag Chanticleer Garden right there. Hi, Erin.
Hey, Justin. Thank you so much for sharing those stats and that roundup.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell a little bit of background about Chanticleer first. We are a 47-acre public garden located 30 minutes west of Philadelphia. The garden's unofficial motto is beauty without bureaucracy, and it's an artistic and whimsical garden. Our gardeners lead the design, and guests get to develop a very personal connection to the garden. We have 7 horticulturists. Each are responsible for the evolving design, planting, and maintenance of an area. And their areas are continuously changing, and each have their own very unique feel, yet we try to join them together as a complete unit. And at its basic level, Chanticleer exists for pleasure. We're called a pleasure garden, and our Instagram kind of reflects that. However, the garden is filled with ideas to take home, and we try to use the Instagram platform as a sharing mechanism to talk about what we're doing and how people can apply those gardening practices at home. Our educational programs focus on the Chanticleer way of gardening, and we attract professional gardeners and avid amateurs to our courses. We're host to numerous arts programs, which really ties into how well the garden photographs, and then that links to Instagram significantly as an opportunity to share photographs. So this is a substantial way for our guests to express their interpretation of the garden, and photography has been a big educational tool for our staff conveying information. Whether that's conveying their design intent or specific gardening skills. So in 2013, we began to have an Instagram presence, mostly kind of on a whim. We recognized it was a really growing platform and we wanted to have a presence there. So we also recognized that we had a lot of beautiful visual content to share, and Instagram quickly became a very useful, and it became a big opportunity, we'll say that. As a mobile app, it obviously attracts a high volume of users and kind of really within our target audience, that younger audience trying to gain their interest in gardening. And so I would just add as kind of a last thought that we also really appreciate Instagram because a lot of our followers don't live within our region and can't experience our garden physically on site every year or as frequently as they would like. And so we're finding that they get to experience the garden digitally and very authentically through our Instagram presence, and that they're really engaging with us frequently there, more so than our other social media platforms.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for that whole rundown, Erin. And I really appreciate what you guys are doing there. It's inspired me in a lot of ways, and it certainly has inspired me to come visit Chanticleer Garden as well. It's one of my favorite gardens that I've ever visited, so thank you very much, Erin. Okay, next, at San Francisco Botanical Gardens, so we're coming back to the West Coast, we have Brendan Lang. Brendan is the Director of Experience and Marketing, and before I had any familiarity with San Francisco Botanical Garden, I was familiar with Brendan's work that he's doing on the page, and when I first started, he was quite a model for me. So excited to have you, Brendan. Can you give me some background on the garden and your Instagram presence?
Sure, Justin. Thanks so much. Very flattering words there. Appreciate it. Yeah, so San Francisco Botanical Garden is 55 acres in Golden Gate Park, which is a little over 1,000 acres in the heart of San Francisco. The garden's been open since 1940, And so long storied history, lots of ups and downs over the years, like I'm sure many other gardens. And in 2009, we engaged the Harvard Business School Community Partners Program to provide a strategic architecture for the garden for the future. We were kind of at a turning point. It was right when we were about to start charging admission for the garden for the first time. Previously, the garden for decades was free for everyone. So we were really looking to kind of pivot into this new position. And a virtual presence. It was, 2009, 2010. We have to, go back to those days. This is before Instagram. This is like at the, earlier stages of social media, or at least like mass adoption of it. And so we, the virtual world, digital world, online world was something that was identified as somewhere where we had little to no presence at the time. And so we really wanted to do something. And, that's right when I started working at the garden as well, and was trying to pay attention to the world, and Instagram came about, and it was, it seemed kind of perfect for the garden. It was like this visual platform that's all about just showcasing beauty and fun things. Like, oh, okay, I think we got something for this space. And I'm sure many other gardens can relate to, social media is, and well, everyone really, it's, it's our own platform. Like we would control it, and it's free. So it was, it was an opportunity, like I think everyone has tried to utilize. That's, it's a free option to share the good work that you're doing at your respective, whatever it may be. For us, public gardens.
Okay, awesome, Brendan. Really appreciate that. And yeah, I can't wait to head down to San Francisco at some point and see the garden down there. So, okay, next, over back across the United States, other coast, Governor's Island, we have the honor of having Andi Pettis with us. So she is the Director of Horticulture, and I was made familiar with her page as well. So much to learn from what they're doing over with Governor's Island, and Andi, you're doing an outstanding job. So excited to hear what you have to share with us. So.
Hi, Justin. Thank you so much for that introduction. Much appreciated. So yes, I'm currently at the Trust for Governor's Island, and just to familiarize you all a little bit, the Governor's Island was originally Lenape land, and the Dutch took over, and then the British took over, and then the United States Army took over. And the United States Army was based there until 1966, and then they switched over to the Coast Guard. So it has a long military history and lots of, historic buildings that are really interesting and fun to explore. And that really add to the ambience of the island. There are 2 forts on the island, so lots of historic landmarks to explore. And in addition to that, there is new landscaping. The city of New York recently invested $40 million in a beautiful new landscape that includes the building of topography. So we have these hills on the south end of the island now that give these amazing views of, 360-degree views of New York City and New Jersey. And so it has some of the best views in all of New York City, really interesting architecture to explore, a lot of history, and it's all very, very visual, and of course the horticulture and the gardens. So Instagram was kind of a no-brainer in just sort of an aesthetic and visual aspect for Governor's Island. And I think that is probably the primary reason. We also have a very, very strong public art program. You can see up in the left-hand corner there, an installation by Chantal Martin that was done in one of the historic churches on the island. So lots and lots of things to photograph, lots of things for our visitors to photograph and for us to repost. And again, just gorgeous, gorgeous views. And before I was at I came to Governor's Island, I was at the High Line, which, as I'm sure many of you know, is a public park that was built on an abandoned railroad trestle on the west side of New York City. And the reasons for using Instagram are very similar. There are lots of old relics from the railroad still existing on the High Line. Of course, gorgeous gardens designed by Pete Rudolph. And again, incredibly beautiful vantage points of New York City. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about those accounts too. And I think another thing that we have been very cognizant of, both at the High Line and Governor's Island, is those statistics. And I think, so 75% of 18 to 24-year-olds use Instagram, and 57% of 25 to 30-year-olds in the United States use Instagram. So it's got a very young base. And those, just from a development and cultivation point of view, those are the people that we really want to engage as visitors and members and potential donors now and in the future. And as you know, Brendan mentioned, it's free. And we can repost and share all of that content.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Andy. Sure, appreciate that a lot, and glad you can join us. Okay, so I'm definitely the small player of the group here, but I'll introduce myself and the garden a little bit. So we're a smaller garden. The Powell's Wood, we started in 1992, so we're just south of Seattle. We're in the middle of urban sprawl, so we're 40 acres, surrounded by suburbs and not very far from Seattle urban area. And so still though, we're not very well known, I would say. And one of the things that I encountered when I first came, so I've been here since 2017. And yeah, like I said, we started as a private garden and we eventually opened up to the public. But in 2017, when I came, I noticed that Powell's Wood, the Instagram account, only had 60 followers. And a lot of people are just unfamiliar with our garden in general. Even like our neighbors that live like in the street next to us, they'll still come and they'll be like, whoa, we didn't even know there was a garden here. And so a lot of people refer to us as like our region's best kept secret, which is nice to be known as that, but at the same time, you don't really want to be a secret. And so I don't know why we're a secret. So my goal was to showcase the garden. It's such a beautiful space. We have these beautiful woods, and there's been so much love and investment into this place. And so really just started working on ways that we can get this out there, that we can start posting photos. And I immediately realized that people just really connect with plants and flowers. It's like a universal connection. And so once I got a little bit better at photography, I noticed that more and more people were becoming interested, and it really took off. So in the last 2 years, yeah, it was gone from 60 followers to, yeah, now it's about 8,800 followers. That number fluctuates, and so if you check it today, it'll be maybe a little bit lower than that. But here's some photos that we have taken here at Powell's Wood, and it's been such an important thing for us to be able to share our message with the group. You know, because as a smaller garden, we don't have a lot of people come through our gate, and so we're really looking for ways to connect with a much larger presence. Like for instance, this isn't Instagram, but on Facebook just recently we shared some flower photos, and they were viewed by 3.5 million people, and there was over 500,000 engagements. And like for a garden our size to have that kind of impact on the world, you know, I mean, even if it's just boosting somebody's day with a flower photo, that really meant a lot to us. And so we've invested quite a bit into Instagram as a way to just broaden our audience. So, okay, so I want to ask everybody a question, and I think that a lot of people are here for specific ways that they could grow their Instagram account, and I know that we've all had success in different ways as well. And so I wanted to go over what would you find to be invaluable to your Instagram presence, most valuable, maybe one thing. So Aaron, I'll ask you first. What is one thing that has just really been huge for Chanticleer?
Yeah, so one technique that has been really effective for Chanticleer is the Instagram takeover. So in 2018, we started with this, and it was ultimately motivated by time savings. I oversee the social accounts, but I also oversee our visitor experience and our educational programs. So I'm, just like many public garden professionals, pulled in a lot of different directions. So I wanted to find a way to share the authentic voices and the garden through our staff's eyes, rather than kind of being just very brand focused or performative. We still try to keep a consistent voice across the long term, but these week-long takeovers have been really popular with our audience. So essentially what happens is I work out a schedule with staff, and Chanticleer also sometimes welcomes volunteers from other public gardens, so professionals at other locations globally, to come and work for us for a week to 4 weeks. And so even those guest gardeners will be accounted for in our takeover schedule. We kick off the week with a photo of the person in the garden. I give a little background, talk about who they are, what they're all about. And then essentially they're granted the login information. I give them a one-page sheet about best practices, what hashtags to use, things that we want to try to focus on and be really clear about, like specifically plant nomenclature is of high importance, getting that right. And then that person can post for the entirety of the week. They can do one photo a day, they can do multiple photos a day, they can post stories. And what we found is that it really does kind of give people insight into how our gardeners are seeing the garden. And they feel like they're getting inside information that perhaps just me, myself, as the account manager wouldn't be able to come up with. And yeah, it's just been a great model for us. So I'd recommend it to anyone who's looking to bring in more visual content from the experts that work at your garden.
Okay. What have been some challenges with that, Erin, with asking people to take over the account for a week?
Yeah, so you get a range of different kind of photo quality. If someone's gardeners tend to work pretty hard and their cell phone is exposed to, all sorts of weather. So the quality of the images has sometimes varied. And then just trying to coach people on the types of posts. So trying to avoid, specific topics. And so those have been some challenges, but nothing that we can't overcome. And the other little tension is that, occasionally we have general garden openings or information about programs that we want to share and intersperse. And so just trying to time those in a way that it still honors the takeover and people can still get that consistency of the message of our Instagram takeover individual compared to what our programs are. So a lot of times I'll use stories to kind of throw up those immediate announcements that we want to share.
Yeah, I really like that about Chanticleer's page, how it is like a unique perspective every week. And I know sometimes, it's probably scary for an organization to hand over your IG account to maybe somebody who's like an intern who doesn't necessarily represent your brand, 100%. But I value that you guys have taken that step. It's really courageous. And I also think it's helpful for smaller gardens. And obviously, you're not a small garden, but gardens with low capacity for their staff to be able to kind of split the load a little bit. So it's not all on one person's shoulders to make their social media presence a success. So you guys have really pulled that off well, and thanks for sharing that, Erin. So, okay, so Brendan, what would you say is one area that you would say has been invaluable for Instagram?
One area that's been invaluable has been just, we really focused on quality. So it is interesting to hear Erin talking about just handing over the reins to, various people periodically. I'm trying to learn from that. I think there's something really valuable there. But I've really tried to focus on just high quality content. I think kudos to Justin, also does this really well at Paulswood. I think that is a big reason for the massive gains in followership and the viralness of Facebook sharing those photos as well. But yeah, quality has just like mattered so much in my experience, and been something that we've really tried to focus on. So, Instagram is a very vertical platform. So, we often have really gorgeous panoramic or, landscape, very horizontal photos. They just don't work very well on Instagram. They turn into like these little narrow bands, and it's hard to think. So that may seem like a really simple little thing, but that's just an example of kind of utilizing the platform as best as you can. That's something that, and then just basic image quality concerns. It's really important just to have things in focus, and like how is the image, arranged? Simple things like that. It seems so simple, but oftentimes it's a challenge. And I've seen lots of other cultural organizations and all the like. I think it's a challenge for some. So that's really just high quality stuff, and totally we have tried to share other people's high quality content from visitors. Mm-hmm. So reposting, as Andy mentioned earlier, reposting other people's high quality stuff, which is just how much you pay for a photo shoot and how much effort and staff time and all that stuff. When you have visitors who love your garden coming in constantly with like giant, amazing, super expensive equipment, taking amazing bird photos, super gorgeous macro photos. I mean, really, capturing moments that you couldn't if you tried. And most often those folks, in my experience, coming to them from the garden, like they're so enthused to share more broadly their work, and they're really honored and excited to do that. So, I couldn't stress quality enough, and really I think, trying to have crisp, nice stuff is really important. And that goes to, captions as well. Like your words are, and ever, becoming more and more so just as important as the visual. And timeliness, you don't want to sound tone deaf. So relevance to the world is really critical too. I think those are some really super key, big, chunky points that really need to be kept in mind when using the platform. And when you don't, it's really apparent. And I think it can be, it can be problematic even at times. So definitely stress all those things.
No, excellent points, Brendan. One thing I've told Brendan before is I felt like I visited the garden just by looking at his posts and his videos. I felt like I was actually there, like especially like when the magnolias are in bloom. He does a really good job of showcasing that. And yeah, definitely concentrating on quality that's not always easy, but I do appreciate what you said about other photographers. It's like the ultimate compliment for them if you share their post or their work on your page. I think a lot of people will tag gardens hoping, or tag tourist locations hoping that they'll get reshared, and so good job on that. And yeah, you're executing on the quality stuff. We'll probably have some more questions about both of these items, the question and answer time as well. But Andy, wanted to touch base with you. So I just admire so much about what you are doing with building community, and I was hoping that you could expand on that a little bit in regards to what you're doing on the Instagram page there.
Sure, absolutely. I think one of the most useful and serendipitous things about Instagram is that it is a social media platform. And so at the Trust for Governors Island and at the Highline both, we really take that social aspect of it seriously. And it is a really amazing opportunity to engage all kinds of communities, starting with our staff. And we have also, at the Highline, we also used the staff takeover strategy, which worked really, really well for us. And it's, as Aaron said, it's a really great way to tell staff stories and sort of get a new viewpoint out there. Seeing things through those staff people's eyes is really kind of a cool story. And at Governor's Island and the Highline both, we kind of took that idea a step further, and we actually gave departments on our staff their own Instagram accounts. So at Governor's Island, we have actually 4 working dogs. They are border collies they're rescue dogs. They are bred for sheep herding, and on Governor's Island, the trust employs them to chase geese off the lawns. So they are part of our pest control program at Governor's Island, and they are tremendously popular on Instagram. So you can look up GI working dogs, and you can meet all 4 of the dogs that work on Governor's Island, and they have thousands of followers, dog lovers and border collie lovers and Governor's Island lovers. So that's been something that was really eye-opening for us, is just sort of expanding the scope of who you can engage through those kinds of stories on Instagram. At the Highline, they have 2 cohorts of teen staff every year. There is the Teen Arts Council and Green Council. And the Teen Arts Council, of course, works with the public art program there. I keep saying we as if I still work there, but with the public art program there. And they also do a lot of work around social justice through the arts. And they have, and then the Green Council does a whole curriculum around learning about plant science and also food justice and the importance of green space in communities of color in the city, in urban areas. And so the teens have their own Instagram account at the Highline, and they post all kinds of stories about the projects they're working on, the things they're learning, and these are stories that are going out to all of their friends. And we're talking about a lot of young people who have maybe never felt comfortable walking into a museum or never put their hands in soil. They grew up in the city, and also predominantly young people of color. And they are, through their Instagram accounts, spreading the word about the Highline through their community, their own community, through school and social communities. So I think that's really cool. And one thing that they are doing now, and this kind of is a good segue into what an amazing opportunity Instagram is at this point in our country's being. During COVID, those teens they've started a whole Instagram account around filling out the census. So they are, pointing to their own stories about why it is important for them and their families to fill out the census, so that they can be counted in the census, and so that funding can be allocated, and all of the things that are, we all know are really important about the census. And also, I noticed that they have lots of posts about the fact that the census does not ask any questions about immigration status. So I thought that was a very cool thing that they are doing to, really engage their communities during this time of social distancing, when they can't be out in the garden doing the work they would normally be doing. And I think for all of us, for all of the gardens, Governor's Island is still closed to the public. In the fall, we planted, as we all did, thousands and thousands and thousands of bulbs, and there's nobody there to see them. So, one thing we've been doing, and I'm sure all of you have too, is just posting photos of all the beautiful bulbs that have come out, the tulips and all of those displays that our visitors are missing, and reposting and sharing. And so, it's a great opportunity to keep engaging your audience, your visitors, and your members. What else did I, and just in addition to the, employing your staff in Instagram, volunteers and members who love to take photos, as you've all mentioned. And we also take photos of all of our volunteer groups that come through, our individual volunteers as they're working, because those are great stories. They can really help to cultivate your volunteer core, and just tag all of the faces you recognize in the photos you take, because they will be thrilled to be, those people will be thrilled to be highlighted, and they will reshare and spread the word that way too. And it becomes exponential in that way. One story that I think is really great is that last year, I marched with the Leslie Lohman Museum of Gay and Lesbian Art during the New York City Pride March. And I happened to run into a volunteer that I worked with at the High Line there. Nancy Schambon was there. And so we took a selfie during the parade, and we hashtagged Leslie Lohman Museum of Art, we hashtagged the High Line, we hashtagged Governor's Island, and we wrote a caption about, the convergence of these amazing organizations at that moment in time. And I believe that the Leslie Lohman Museum was the only organization that re-tagged or reshared that photo. But it just, again, it points to the idea that working with your partners, working with your volunteers, working with your staff, the exposure becomes exponential, and you can really do a lot of cultivating and engaging audiences and your communities that way.
No, it's really good, Andy. I sincerely appreciate just how culturally relevant you are over there at Governor's Island. Even with the current state of our world, like you said, I've wondered what our garden's voice is, and I think a lot of gardens are wondering what that is. Like Brendan pointed out, at the risk of being tone deaf or obtuse, I think that you have bridged that really well. And so I feel like you guys are, as a garden, you're right in the middle of culture, and you're not irrelevant as maybe society might make horticulture, especially during this time right now. You've really connected it. So a lot to learn from what you're doing over there in terms of connecting the community. Excellent job. Okay, so now, I guess I'll share a little bit about, so one of the things, Palswood, that has been successful for us, first of all, I realize that there's a lot of beautiful gardens, and so it's important to not just try to brag about Palswood and try to compare it with other gardens, but to just celebrate nature in general. Let's celebrate flowers, let's celebrate trees, let's celebrate plants and butterflies. Everybody connects to that. And so I found that there's actually a lot more connection when I do that, rather than try to just market Palswood specifically, but when I basically market nature, and it has a universal effect. And so that's been one of the keys. But then also, for me personally, I've had the freedom to use my personality on our page a little bit. I've taken some liberties with that on stories. I'll share funny stuff or kind of give personal updates. So Palswood isn't baseless, that it has a personality. I think a lot of people, they're on Instagram, they're on social media because they want to connect with people. And so just trying to remember that, if Kathy comments on one of my flowers, I say, oh, thank you so much, Kathy. Have a wonderful day, and I just try to make it as personal as possible, make sure that I reply to as many comments as I can, even though, sometimes that's me up at night, 10:30 p.m. Responding to these kind of comments. I think that's really important to build that community and to keep it personal. I've taken liberty with just my charisma, and like for instance, I was in Philadelphia. I was at Bartram's Garden, and I recorded a little story, and I was like, I'm in a weird mood. I'm just gonna record a rap. And so I was like, in West Philadelphia, born and raised on the Garden is where I spent most of my days. And it was so dumb. And I was like, I'm weeding up, pulling, and I kept it on there for a couple hours. And then I got insecure thinking, oh no, what if the board sees this? I'm gonna be in big trouble. This is the first time I really expressed myself. And so I deleted it after like 2 hours. And then I got home from that trip, and the board president, he said, I love that video. I love that rap, and he was like, do more of that kind of stuff. And so since then there's been, like me doing silly plant voices and things, just to kind of be entertaining. Also on Instagram, I think a lot of people just go on there simply for entertainment. It's a little bit lighter than some of the other platforms. And so just try to keep it light in those ways, which isn't always easy. Because like we'll talk about a little bit more about the the risk of being tone deaf in the middle of troubling times. But that's been a big component for us, is concentrating on nature, not necessarily specific to Palswood, and then also allowing some personality to come out. I think that there are a lot of behind the scenes people in these accounts that the audience wants to see. They want to connect with a person. And it's a step that maybe not every organization can make just because of their size and bureaucracy, like Aaron said. But it's a valuable one, I think, on Instagram. At least for us, it's really worked. Okay, so what is one IG failure story? Let's make this quick. Okay, so Aaron, can you tell us a failure story?
Yeah, so this is related to the whole link in bio kind of concept. You want an actionable step for your followers. You want them to register for a program, to, check out your membership. And so forever, I was just updating the URL with one singular URL. And then finally, I found Linktree. So a little late to the game, but basically it's a platform where you can share multiple URLs under one URL. So that's my takeaway, or what I
That's
share.
actually really helpful. And I'm even later than you, because if you look at ours right now, there's another link that's not even our website, just because I wanted to promote PugetSoundGardens.org, which I'm doing right now. But I'm going to do that right after this. So thanks, Aaron.
It's really
Okay,
easy.
Brandon, can you tell us a failure story?
Sure, it's one that I keep not learning from, but I think I really need to. The collage. I have insisted upon the collage. I personally like the collage, and it always is just less than 50% performance in terms of likes and comments. People never seem to really care, regardless if it's a programmatic collage or if it's just a flowery collage or if it's a user-generated content collage. No one likes the collage, seemingly. So I don't know. That's been my experience, and I think I might have to. But it just fits so many needs often. But I think the collage might have to go, unless someone tells me otherwise. But I had a photographer friend tell me, collage. People want to share one hero image. And if, the collage is for those that don't have one good image. If you have, so, yeah, the collage is
The collage. I'm
my
going to remember that.
failure.
I think those stopped a couple of years ago. I didn't know anybody still does those, Brendan. So.
Yeah, there we go. Case in point.
I have actually a successful collage. Real quick, America's Garden Capital is an organization in the Philly area that represents 36 gardens, and we had a very successful collage. Every garden held up a different word. Basically, it's around COVID and our desire to reopen. So you can check that out. It was really strong performance for us. So I think when it's the right message, it can work, but not
There
always.
you go.
No, I agree. I saw that, Aaron. I'm pretty confident I liked it too. So. Okay, Andy, can you tell us a failure story?
Oh yeah. So my failure story is actually about being very obtuse. So at the Highline, we have our spring cutback every year in March, and we have hundreds of volunteers. They have hundreds of volunteers who come through and help with spring cutback, and many of them have been coming year after year after year for 9-10 years now to help with the cutback. And in March in New York City, it's cold and people are bundled up and they've got their gloves and they're working hard. They take it very, very seriously. So we tried really hard in our orientations for cutback, to get people to, post stories and post photos. And we really encouraged people. We, threw around hashtags and nobody posted anything. None of our volunteers posted anything. And after a few days of this, I was like, I actually started going around and actually offering to, take people's cell phones and take a photo of them so that they could post it to their story. And it was, I wouldn't say people got irritated, but it was kind of like I was a fly they were swatting away. And, people were just very focused, and it was cold and they didn't want to be interrupted. So that was definitely a learning experience. And so from then on out, it was, the staff taking photos of our members and tagging them and getting the story out that way.
No, that's good to know. I've been to a lot of weddings where the couple, they ask for everybody to use their specific hashtag, and like nobody does, and it's really uncomfortable. So yeah. Okay, a quick failure story for me. Actually, I'm really embarrassed to admit this one. So a couple of years ago, Southern California, there are raging wildfires, and I took a photo in the garden of a dahlia, a bright orange dahlia, and it had pink coming around it, and it really just looked like fire to me. And so I posted, during all this time, I posted a photo, and I put, the garden is on fire, and I put like 3 little emoji flames next to it. And it didn't even occur to me, and I was wondering why there was like no response. And then in like the middle of the night, I woke up and like, oh my gosh, what have I done? So I changed it to like the garden is being lit up by dahlias or something lame. But yeah, it's just really easy to not think through all these social media posts. It's really dangerous territory, as we're learning right now. There's this, there's like, you really need to know what you're posting. Is it relevant? Is it informative? Is it helpful? And really work through certain criteria before something comes out. Otherwise, yeah, it could really backfire on you and your organization. Thankfully, nobody called me out on that, but I do get called out often on like plant ID kind of things and all that stuff, but I'm used to that, so no big deal. Well, I think that about wraps it up for our 45 minutes. So I just want to thank you guys so much. We will be coming back for some question and answers, and you guys did awesome, and I'm so excited to continue following you on Instagram. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Justin.
Thanks, Justin.
All right.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jamie Riccio, Member Development Manager at the
Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and we're going to answer some of the questions that we received during this time. We're going to do our best to go through as many as we can, but some of the bigger ones I want to make sure that we get to. Aaron, you had quite a bit of questions regarding the takeover. I was wondering if you could just speak a little bit more about that. There was some questions about like sharing logging info, like how do you do that? How do you use social media management platforms to help share the load and keep things on track? What are the ground rules? If you could expand a little bit more on some of these questions.
Sure, happy to. So the ground rules we keep pretty straightforward. It's pretty much double check plant nomenclature. If you're not sure and you don't we drive people towards the MOBOT website where we ask them to talk to our plant information coordinator to get that information correct. We also just give guidelines on no more than 3 posts a day. Sometimes people are really eager to share, so I encourage them to put them in a photo set rather than separate posts. If they're really inclined to post more than once a day, to space it out. And then we have some consistent hashtags that we ask people to use, and so keeping those in, and if people want to add others and get creative, they can. And then just some of our staff prefer not to be photographed or credited, and so making sure that permission is asked and gained before posting a photo. And so then just to briefly talk about the login, it's pretty simple. I just share the handle and the password, and I change that once a year or more. I haven't had issues with security, but then when someone's done their takeover, they log out, and it's pretty straightforward. And then I haven't used management platforms myself. I'm a bit familiar with Agorapulse, but I haven't really stepped into that. So someone else may be able to address that.
Yeah, Brendan, do you use a management platform?
We do. We just started using Iconosquare, which was recommended to us from some other colleagues that we've found. I think Hootsuite is another really common, popular option. But Iconosquare also offers some kind of deeper analytics as well, which we've found helpful.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, Andy, there was also a question. This is a big one. I think that we were all facing this as organizations. It says, does anyone want to speak to the garden's decision process to post the black box? Not all gardens did, but a lot of them did. Share messaging around Black Lives Matter to go about business as usual on Instagram. in early June when a lot of the platform was muting to make room or focusing on amplifying Black voices on the platform?
So when Governor's Island was deeded to the city of New York, the deed stipulates that Governor's Island is a public open space for the people of New York in perpetuity. And I think we, like leadership at Governor's Island, has always taken that very seriously. And so environmental justice, racial justice, social justice has always been sort of very core to our values when we are engaging programming partners and sort of planning our events. And so it was a little bit of a no-brainer for us. Like yes, we absolutely posted the black box because it is so in line with what our values are for our organization and our visitors. On June 2nd, we posted the black box along with a statement, about how we are in solidarity with the Black Lives Movement and also reiterating our commitment to being a public space for all and welcoming and striving to be more and more accessible to as many New Yorkers as we can. And it got 591 likes and just a tiny bit of pushback. We did get pushback, and I'm sure anyone who posted the black box probably did, but hopefully that's 591 people who know what our values are now and will pay attention. And just a few days later, just to sort of bring it into context with our organization again, we posted about a magazine article that was about by a Black climate expert talking about how racism derails efforts to save the planet. And so we really used it as we continued the momentum and talked more about environmental justice in that way.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys are really leading the way on that, Andy, and I think that we can all learn quite a bit. It was also nice to get the APGA statement from that it kind of freed up, I think, a lot of gardens just to share that statement as well. So grateful for that. But yeah, it's definitely delicate. We want to make sure that we're responding to where culture is. So thank you. Also, wanted to touch base real quick about Facebook and Instagram. Obviously, they're different platforms, different audiences. Powellswood, I'll just say right now, we post to Instagram and then it automatically goes to Facebook. We don't really do two, but we found success on both platforms. Real quick, could somebody, maybe Brendan, can you tap into that just a little bit about Facebook and Instagram?
Sure. So there's some differences with Facebook, just the way the platforms behave. So for Facebook, we definitely post more kind of like articles to try to establish like intellectual leadership and stuff that don't work seemingly as well as, on Instagram. So that, and the direct links helped kind of make that better, and the previews and stuff. Facebook's kind of more set up to share articles. But I have seen other people doing a lot of that kind of activity on stories in Instagram pretty successfully, it seems like. I haven't explored that much myself, but that might be a route for people to explore.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Brendan.
Okay, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to end it here. That's all the time we have for this session. We'd like to thank our presenters, Andy Pettis from the Trust for Governor's Island, Justin Henderson from Powellswood Garden, Erin McKeon from Chanticleer, Brandon Lang from San Francisco Botanical Garden, and all of you for being a part of today's session. Please stay tuned for a few quick announcements from the association, and there will be plenty of time for you to get to your next breakout session at 3:20 Eastern. Thanks again for coming.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Richard Duran, your association's Marketing and Communications Manager. Over a decade ago, the association launched an awareness campaign with Rainbird called National Public Gardens Day, celebrated the Friday before Mother's Day to focus attention on the important role of public gardens and conservation. Last year, the association refreshed this initiative to create National Public Gardens Week, expanding it to a 10-day celebration starting Mother's Day weekend. A record-setting 200 gardens participated. This year, the global pandemic forced us to change the way we celebrated National Public Gardens Week. With over 90% of our member gardens closed in May, we focused more on supporting gardens' recovery over the spring months and promoting their virtual resources like online classes and tours. Thanks to you, we reached a new high of 230 participating gardens this year, but we're not through. We continue to drive support through your gardens through our social media feeds in what we are calling National Public Gardens 2020. You can find more information at npgw.info. We hope you will enjoy this short video celebrating this year's week, and we look forward to returning to National Public Gardens Week next year, starting on May 7th.
The usual practice during National Public Gardens Week is for us to open our gardens free to the public. But this year is a little different. It is not business as usual. In fact, it's business unusual.
Aloha from National Tropical Botanical Garden Headquarters on Kauai.
Hello, I'm Joan Thomas, your association's Director of External Relations. I really miss seeing all of you this year, and I look forward to getting together next year with you. The spring has been hard on all of us, but I've also heard many stories of resilience, how you kept programs going, used technology to stay connected, and kept members, your coworkers, and your community connected to you. It's also been a time when we've seen funding come to the aid of gardens, to individuals, and to community organizations. For this year's campaign, we wanted to pause and focus on what makes you stronger as a person, as a member of the association, and as an institution. We know the next few years are ones of recovery, recalibration, and reassessment, and hopefully rejuvenation for you. There are over 9,700 of you out there, members of this association, and we want to make sure that over these next few years, you have all the support you need to not only recover, but to thrive. Our goal in establishing the 9,700 Strong campaign is to support each and every one of our 9,700 members over the next few years, to help us stay responsive and to help you stay resilient and constant in your membership with us. We started 9,700 Strong in mid-April and got early support from conference sponsors and with the help of additional champions and our exhibitors. PlanSnap, one of our affinity partners, joined in the campaign and sweetened the deal by offering a free unlimited term pro download of the PlanSnap app to donors giving $20 or more. So for the past 2 months, hundreds of people all over the US have been donating to support you, our public gardens. We're now extending the PlanSnap incentive to all of you as we close in on our campaign goal of $100,000. We're so close. I've been so amazed at the outpouring of personal support to help your fellow members, whether scholarships or member resilience. And so I hope that during this conference, you'll make a gift and join with me and others in reaching this goal. Follow the links on your conference dashboard to give, or you can text 9,700 Strong to 41444. We'll be showing this campaign thermometer throughout the conference to show progress to and hopefully beyond our goal. Thank you so much for being with us and enjoy the conference.
Hi, I'm Jamie Riccio, the association's Member Development Manager. I joined the association in January of this year, and I was looking forward to meeting all of you in Portland at my very first association conference. I wanted to give a special shout out to our sponsors and exhibitors, many of whom have been longtime supporters of our conferences and have stayed with us this year for the virtual conference. And while we don't have an exhibit hall this year for you to walk through, I did want to remind you to visit our Partner Spotlight section of our conference website. Please take a moment to interact with these members and to view their videos. Some of them have offers and other news to share and are here for you. Thanks and enjoy the conference.
and hopefully rejuvenation for you. There are over 9,700 of you out there, members of this campaign thermometer throughout the conference to show
Hi, I'm Jamie Riccio, the association's Member Development Manager. I joined the association in January of this year, and I was looking forward to meeting all of you in Portland at my very first association conference. I wanted to give a special shout out to our sponsors and exhibitors, many of whom have been longtime supporters of our conferences and have stayed with us this year for the virtual conference. And while we don't have an exhibit hall this year for you to walk through, I did want to remind you to visit our Partner Spotlight section of our conference website. Please take a moment to interact with these members and to view their videos. Some of them have offers and other news to share and are here for you. Thanks and enjoy the conference.